And now we will turn to our next guest, our next participant, and that's Shirin Amini. Hi. She is a longtime accountant, a SOX compliance expert, and senior manager for the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco in her day job. But she's also a Kali Ki Reiki practitioner on the Master Path, and she's on the Advisory Council for the Wisdom School and offers her wisdom all of the time to all of us. So, without further ado, Shireen, we would love for you to talk about your experience with Kali Ki Reiki.
Thank you, Chamatkara. I appreciate that. I appreciate you having me here today. My experience years ago before the pandemic, because I was looking for a community to just practice meditation with. And my wife had been recently diagnosed with lung cancer and thought it would be a good time to get back into meditative practice. And we were also looking at Eastern alternatives to complement the treatment she was going through. And so I'd heard of Reiki, but didn't know a lot about it. And she decided to give it a shot and have a couple treatments. And she was very, very logical and practical. We were kind of opposite. She was very type A and, ran marathons and that kind of thing. And so initially when she got the Reiki, she thought like, well, I don't know, her little mind would just go constantly and she probably couldn't relax and who knows. But she was used to like, oh, I'm going to get an adjustment or I'm going to get something, I'm going to feel an immediate difference. So she got a couple treatments and then we got wrapped up into her other conventional Western medical treatment. And then the pandemic hit. So several years had gone by and we had just, things had proceeded. And then we didn't realize at the time, but she had taken quite a decline in the summer of 2022. And during that summer, she had decided that she had this strong desire to do Reiki. She wanted to get Reiki. And I was kind of like, okay, well, whatever you want to do, let's do it, and it just kind of seemed to come out of the blue though. And I didn't really think much of it because there was so much going on. And she'd reached out to Raja Shrima. She said, who was that person? And she wanted to go back and get Reiki. And Raja Shrima happened to be stuck, I think, longer than expected in India. And so she had emailed and said, maybe there's these other people. And I actually think one of them was Madas, but she was like, well, he deals with, people in the end stages of life. So I don't think I want to do that at the time. And so she didn't connect and things went on and she ended up declining very unexpectedly and very rapidly at the end of 2022. And she passed away on January 8th, 2023. And, I was overcome with grief and, I still have a little, right? But, my best friend had taken, was staying with me right after. I think if I go back to my text messages, it was like within 10 days of her passing, my best friend said, well, you got to get moving. We got to get out. Let's do a yoga class. And at the time I was kind of like, okay, I was just willing to do whatever. And so it was the first time I went to a yoga class at Napa Valley Yoga in probably 4 or 5 years, because we've been very wrapped up in her care and work and everything. And at that yoga class, it wasn't very full, but I thought, I've seen that woman before. And it was Raja Shrima. And I was at the end of class, I was just like, I have to go and say something. And everything was fresh. And I couldn't remember her name. It had been a long time and I hadn't reached out to her. I said, I think you're are you the meditation lady or something like that? She looked at me like, yeah. And I said, oh, well, we had gone to meditation and my wife had gone to for Reiki. And she said, oh, I said, my wife is Heather. And she said, oh, yeah, I've been thinking about her. And I just got back from India. How's she doing? And I said, well, she just passed away. And she said, oh my gosh, I would love to do Reiki on you. And I was like, okay, sure. Well, I'm whatever. I'm happy to get some Reiki or a little bit anything. And she gave me her number and I texted her later and she got right back to me. And I went over, I don't know, a couple days later for my first Reiki session. And I was, very distraught and in the depths of grief and feeling horrible. And so, she was just so warm and loving. And one of the things that it was interesting, and you walk into the wisdom school, which is also Raja Srima's home. And that there's just this immediate feeling. The energy in there is unlike anything you kind of really have experienced. And that this person, just made me feel so comfortable. And we talked and, I wasn't feeling great. And I got onto the Reiki table and, I laid down and she started the Reiki. She placed her hands gently on me with having no expectation or any idea what was going to happen. And now I know the session, I'm guessing, was about 40 minutes. And I went into this deep state of relaxation that I don't really go into any time other than when I'm getting Reiki. And it's interesting. It's because if I want to get into that state of relaxation when I'm home, and of course I have my meditative practice, my daily practices, and I can practice self Reiki. I'm going through the master path now, but there was something different about that experience and how that continued. And so after the session, she said, get up very slowly, and I took my time. And we sat down and debriefed. And I remember before I laid down, I just talked about this hole that I had. This just, it was like despair, this just huge hole in this, sense of grief I had. So she said, what are you feeling right now? And I kind of stopped and I paid attention and I was like, she said, is that hole still there? And I was kind of perplexed because I realized, and I told her that at the moment, I was like, at this exact moment, no, it's not there. Like at this moment, I have a sense of peace, like, and I kept waiting for it to leave any second. But and she's like, okay, just remember this, because this is your natural state, and know that you can get here and that this is where you are supposed to be. And it was just exactly what I needed at that moment. And I just could sit there and be present. And it was this moment of relief that I needed. And so it was profound enough for me to continue coming back week after week to get my moment of relief, my moments of my 40 minutes of relaxation. And sometimes it lasted 15 minutes and sometimes it lasted a couple hours. But I always knew I could get there. And then it was like this new baseline. It would just almost like reset my clock. And I just knew I could come back and it would kind of give me that relief that I needed. And nothing else gave me that relief. And it might have, it wasn't permanent. It wasn't, but I got it. And I could always just have that moment where I was like, this is I feel at peace. And it I think it significantly um helped in my grieving the entire process. I'm not sure where I would be had I not been doing Reiki, getting Reiki regularly. And it was, I think, fairly profound enough so that at a certain point it was having such a positive effect. I decided to go on a silent meditation retreat. And from there, I took level one and then thought, I want, Raja Shrima said, you can learn this. And I thought, no, I don't know if I can learn this actually. I'm not sure. I think that she said, no, you can. I was like, okay, again, all right, I'll give it a shot. And so I kind of got hooked, and now I'm in the master path. Um, but I'm extremely grateful and appreciative to the Reiki and the healing and the whatever it provided me, and also to all the people that came along the path as well that are in my life.
Hmm. Oh, Shireen, it's just so good to have been able to help you with that as it happened. And of course, I believe Heather sent you back, really, that our meeting, was in some ways arranged, and it was really special. And I felt so badly that I was not able to work with her toward the end because I was in India. But it was like, this is what was meant to be. And that moment, that moment that we can all experience, every single one of us, and many of us have, that moment is an eternal moment. And it's a moment when we transcend any kind of human worry or experience, and we connect with what I call the Divine Mother, with the Holy Spirit, the sacredness of being in that moment. And because it's eternal, we may not continue to feel it actively or intellectually, but that moment has opened our hearts, opened our souls, softened us in a certain way, and strengthened us in another. And I think these are such precious moments, and everyone can have them through Reiki, through meditation as well. And this is why Reiki and meditation go so well together. People meditate for years and years and years looking for that samadhi experience, that experience of a selflessness, wholeness, unity. And often, especially with Kali Ki Reiki, that it comes, and it comes so easily. And that um, helps with our meditation practice, and then our meditation practice helps us as Reiki healers, and also as those receiving Reiki. So it's just been beautiful to watch your path and to be part of it. So thank you.
Thank you. And I do have to say, I think that there definitely was the universe was aligning, and I wish you had gotten to work with Heather as well. But I think if you had, I don't know if our paths would have crossed. And it was such a circumstance and of events that happened, and it just seemed like it was so meant to be, which to me kind of also indicates the power of the Reiki, and that it was, whether, I feel that Heather was, working from behind the scenes to make it happen. And I really think that, in addition to those moments which is why I did it for months, and I think it was one of the best things that I did. And a lot of things I think transformed because of the Reiki. Even though I had these moments, there were these significant changes I'm sure partly due to the significant loss, which changes people. But I also think that, my intuition was different, and my perspective, and how the more Reiki I got, the more clarity I got. So I think it had a very profound effect. And sometimes I would wish that I could really just like get the answer and know like the exact connection. So I had to learn, like, I think in my heart, I feel in my heart, this is what's going on. And that's the Reiki. And so, and I think that was really, really important. And the effects are long lasting.
And one of the things that I love about hearing all these different experiences, is, as we talked about when I was introducing you, Rajashri Ma, that the Reiki, that love force, is operating on all levels. It's very, something very tangible, practical, that it would work with grief. That's something very tangible and practical. Yet it also yields these mystical shared visions at the same time. Also works with medical RSV, medical conditions, that it's operating on all of these different levels, and very intuitively is operating, working within and without, however and wherever the healing needs to be and how it needs to come about. So I just wanted to, it's wonderful to hear all of these stories. Um, and I love the practical. It's one of the things I love about Shereen the most.
Well, I was going to say, I just have to interject one more thing, which is, I mean, I am an accountant and I work for the Fed. And I will say, I've also learned the Reiki is amazing because I can go back into the corporate world, and I can like go into a meeting that I know is going to be difficult, and I can get into that mindset and activate the Reiki, and it can protect me and give me strength. And so you use it all the time, not even, sometimes you need it when you're in your everyday, the grind, the rat race. It's helpful as well. So
Thank you. I think that's such an important message for people to get. This isn't just for woo-woo folks, it's for everyone.